What's up, everybody? We're back for another episode of Hot Topic.
Hot Topic.
Do you like hot topics here? I like the hot topics here. So, yeah, we're doing one. It's going to be great here. I think. I think they're all great. So we're going to be doing a hot topic talking about the Panini era in a quick review. We're not going to go very deep on this. I just kind of want to get some overall perspective of the Panini era from you, Paul, from anybody else who's watching or listening, so we can kind of just get some feedback from people on what you thought of the Panini era. Go, Paul.
It was great.
It was great.
Yeah,
we're done. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, see ya. Was it the greatest ever era in wrestling cards? That's very subjective. There's a lot of way.
Well, tell me why you would think it isn't, and tell me why you think it could be.
Okay, so let me point out some of the things that bugged me, but these are Paul things. These aren't necessarily anything Panini did wrong. And let me just say, I want to separate the Panini cards and the releases from the Panini company and what they had to contend with over this time that they put it out. Because the things that bugged me weren't necessarily Panini's fault. For example, those last three sets coming as quick as they did, forcing us to sort of, holy shit, how can you get your hands around it? Wasn't their fault. They were just doing as a company what they would be doing to make as much money, squeeze as much juice out of the lemon as
Well,
as
they got to dump all those stickers somehow.
They have to
got to get rid of it.
Yeah. So some of the products I thought were rushed towards the end. Stickers on National Treasures shouldn't be, if that's supposed to be, given the price points. But the cards themselves, I thought by and large were amongst the best we've ever seen. From my perspective, I would definitely put the Immaculates, both of them, the 2024 and 2023, as amongst the top sets ever made. They were just fantastic looking. Like they did a fantastic job. Now, again, I separate the product from the company itself. Like it's a Paul thing. How you collect cards affects the way like I collect sets. So obviously it was a bit of a bear for me having to deal with the change that we've seen in the hobby. Obviously now we're in a different world with Whatnot and breakers.
Yeah.
And this, by the way, this is just on the heels of some very unfortunate information with backyard breaks yesterday. Those guys need to fucking disappear.
They sure do.
I'm hoping by the time that this comes out, they're gone. But that whole world has upset the wrestling card hobby to a degree. There's great breakers out there. Breaker Mayfield and these guys, but some of these guys, they change the way wrestling cards are bought and sold. Because now what happens? You have all these breakers, they buy a shit ton of product, and then they get out there and they sell. It's not like it used to be, like the way Paul would go out on the secondary market and be able to stand a reasonably a good chance of getting product. But that's not Panini's fault. I don't like the dissension, the rift in the hobby that came right off the bat. Again, not Panini's fault. It was the fault of characters. People with, people that thought too much of themselves and too much of what they thought they knew. And you get one guy that likes the product, one guy that don't. Both of them full of themselves, and the next thing you know, we have this issue that goes on and continues to go on. Again, not Panini's fault.
Hey, don't worry, man. I apologize for all that. Two-Face Vela over here. Just
well, yeah, you got caught a little bit as well.
I want to be on record. I don't give a shit at all. I don't care.
We had the Panini guy on here, and I've enjoyed some of our other shows more. Especially when I'm talking, he cuts me off and he says, no, don't talk about the tops, and then he says, okay, you got to stop this. You got to re-edit our video. And then we meet the guy at National, and he's got all of 2 seconds for us. And honestly, wrestling isn't a sport. Going down this road again. Vince said it's not a sport many years ago. So, in my opinion, the rookie rules of sports cards do not apply to something that isn't a sport. And if you can arbitrarily decide that, we'll accept the Julia from Japan, but we're not going to accept the Stephanie Vaquer from Mexico, when CMML is the largest federation and the national distributor of cards, yet somehow arbitrarily one guy that makes a decision. Again, that's nothing to say about the product. The product was good. A lot of the bullshit around it, I could have done without. But on the whole, as a 2-year or whatever it was, 10 releases, I bought them all, so I'm qualified to, I probably bought more Panini cards than most because I bought, all the select sets, all that shit, thousands of cards, thousands of dollars, many thousands of dollars. It was good. Do I like the Panini era better than Fleer? No, in the
So it's
Fleer era,
is that a personal choice
personal,
preference? Okay.
personal. Anything I say is personal. How can
Well,
anyone?
I'm asking you for how your overall opinion of how it changed the hobby.
It definitely changed the hobby. There's no doubt about that. It brought in a ton of new people, right?
That's
Some
what
that
we,
have
yep,
sort of crossed over into our world where they're buying old product and they're consuming our
sure.
content. Um,
Many who've just dipped in to do a quick flip and get out.
exactly. And that's
Yep,
happening with the flawless now. People are
yep.
just going in there and buying these no-name people for like $50 because they think, oh, this is the thing to buy.
Well,
And
I
it's,
can tell you right now, as a Loomis collector, I picked up quite a bit of flawless stuff from him,
yeah,
and I was in play for a 101 that went up, and that's a $250 card tops,
right.
and it shot to 600 and something dollars, and
There you go.
within 3 hours, it was relisted again by the
Right.
seller.
Which has nothing
So
to do with the fact that it's Dexter Loomis, right?
nope, it's
Because
just that
people are paying for the low names, like God bless
no. But
Griffey
my point
Kingston,
is
but
that
those are going for big money too.
my point is in that particular case, it was shield the hell out of, and
Right.
no, there was no intention of paying it. So regardless, yeah, I mean, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, you know, there was a lot of I don't know, rumors, you can't verify this stuff, but a lot of the relics and stuff, people would say, well, these aren't actual relics. This isn't actually a piece of the mat. This isn't actually a piece of the shirt. And I believe that to be the case with a lot of this newer stuff.
Yep.
Back in the Fleer days, the canvas was the canvas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lloyd Pollock told me on every card every every time what I was getting. So for me, even though the design, the photography on the photogenics was fantastic, personally speaking, it wasn't the be all and end all for wrestling cards. To suggest that the Panini era is the greatest ever, it's a personal thing. It's very subjective as to what you're into.
Yeah.
I've been around for the TriStar era. I've been around for Fleer. I've been around for Tops 1, 2, and soon to be 3.0. Um,
Well,
it's
but
pretty much
but
where
here's
you're at.
but here's my viewpoint on that though, is that I'm going to disagree with you on that in saying that I do think the Panini era is probably one of the greatest eras of all time when it comes to wrestling cards because of what it's done for the overall general hobby itself.
Yeah,
And I don't look at it from a design perspective.
I don't
I don't
disagree with that.
care.
I agree with you on that.
I don't care about the conspiracies of manufactured scarcity, the conspiracies of relics not matching talent. So I don't care about any of this stuff. From a collector standpoint, I absolutely love the Fleer era over the Panini era, absolutely,
And
or
that's what
any
I was
other
talking
era.
about as a
Just
collector.
because I like that it says this came from Royal Rumble,
Yeah.
whatever. I like that stuff. But that's my personal preference. But stepping back and looking at the hobby as a whole, creating sales, creating awareness, creating a market that did not exist at this level before, nothing has touched the market of wrestling cards the way the Panini era has.
No.
Nothing. And that is not even debatable. Period. Now,
Well,
how it sets
the
how it
question
sets the
is,
floor going forward is what to be remain to be
so
seen.
so here's the question, Tony, is that you're right, 100%. Now, is that because we came out of COVID on this trajectory going high, right? Where
Could be.
coming out of COVID, there was way more people into wrestling, way more people talking about it, way more people buying it. And then we had the transition where we went from Tops to Panini, and they just rode that wave that was happening anyways. Or was it the result of their efforts? Did Panini on the Prism set, because that's what we
Mm,
started with, and
yeah,
just like Chrome now, they shot their shot
sure.
with a big release, you know, is that what turned the market? You know, and I don't know if
I
there's a
think
right
I
answer to it.
and I think to be honest with you, none of that matters because
Probably.
we've lived through it and
Yeah.
it is what it is now. It
Yes.
created whether it was the beneficiary of the COVID era, whether it was because it was the right time, right place, whether it's because of whatever the case may be, we still had 3 years of some of the most profitable,
Yep.
highest prices, and again, high tides raise all ships, man, and vintage benefited from it just as much as
Absolutely.
well
I,
because
I, I bought every set.
all of it.
I spent a boatload of money on those Immaculates, both sets, a boatload of money on in Impeccables.
Yeah.
Embarking now on the National Treasures, and I'm about midway done. We're not talking, a $20, $30 set. We're not talking $100 set. We're
Well,
talking sets
that's just the
with
market we
shipping
live in
to Chuck
now.
to Toronto, probably 1,000, $1,500 per set. So from my perspective, I have to spend that money. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? But I'm a collector.
Yeah.
That's
But
what defines my
that's the
place
world
in the hobby.
that's the world we live in now.
Yeah.
And I think people need to stop complaining and bitching about well, I collect this and it should be this because I'm so used to
No,
collecting that. We don't live in that world
the
now,
world doesn't
people.
revolve around me or you or anybody else. So
Correct. Well,
what
it's
Paul and
it's
Tony
it's
would like, what Tony and Paul would like to suit their pocketbooks or their tastes is
well,
irrelevant.
shit. I like for the company just give me the sets for free, but that's not
Of
going to
course.
happen, you know. So, it's just not where we live at, man. We don't live in that world. It's on par with people who go like, well, I don't like wrestling today. I like it from the 70s and 80s. That's what I like to watch.
Right.
Okay,
And to
I
each
wish
his
it would.
own.
I wish it would be like that.
Yeah.
I don't because it'd be fucking boring as hell from back. It was fun back then, and I enjoy watching
Oh
wrestling
yeah,
from
it's
the
not what it
80s
is
and the,
now. I
but
like,
not what it is
catch as
now.
catch can style,
Of course,
Luthez
me
kind of
too.
wrestling. I'm into
Me
that. But,
too. Me
you
too.
know,
But is that going to sell tickets to people who want to go see that show? Probably not as much as it is now because it's a theatrical production now. So I
you know
mean,
what it
it
is,
really
Tony?
is.
It's the attention span of people, right? Back
100%. We
back
live.
then, you could sit and you could watch a half an hour of Luthez and Gene Kiniski go and be thoroughly entertained.
Yeah. Well, now if
Nowadays,
you yeah,
nowadays, even I can tell you because I watch Netflix in Canada, when they go to commercial break, it's a different experience because now they chunk the match off into, okay, the match has got to be done in about 4 minutes. We have to have two commercial breaks. There's going to be nine high spots, this, that,
yeah,
ricochet
oh
all over
yeah.
the place. And that's what it is. And that's what this generation of younger kids, they want in their entertainment. They want that immediate
Of
gratification,
course.
right?
It's a 15-second TikTok world now.
Correct. Yes.
That's what it
That,
is.
that's very true. TikTok is
If you cannot convey your message, your promotion, your advertisement within 15 seconds, man, you're like,
yeah.
I'm out. I'm tapping out.
That's a very good point, making the TikTok analogy, because that's the world we live in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Reels on
Yes.
Instagram, TikTok, where you've got your 5 seconds to make your splash in and out, and then you better be ready to do it again in half an hour because you're forgotten about, and that's the sort of disposable world. Like, I'm a musician, right? And don't get me started on what happened to music and rock and roll and all that
Yeah.
stuff, because I could talk to you for hours on
Mm.
how societal changes and how technology did everything against uh, the forces of creativity to make classics anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and Panini, again, they're a company, they're a for-profit company. They got the license. They lost the license on day one, which right away, gives you a sort of tone under which the product is going to exist. There was lawsuits in the middle of it. Tops and Fanatics and WWE wanted to cut them off at the legs, and they won that. So under the backdrop of all that, these people have to make cards. And,
Sure.
there's been mistakes on cards, but there's been some very nice stuff. I mean, I love the Chronicles, the different sections, the selects,
Sure.
400 of them, the red
Every
label.
release has its high points and low points like
Yeah,
that. Across the board, though, I'll say for the Panini era here is that um, they set the new standard on photography and images
yes,
used for cards that
yes.
I think will be very difficult to replicate from a company like Topps, who has its own way of doing things. Um, I don't know. I'm gonna miss that. I'm gonna miss some of that
It's
wonderful imagery. And to their credit, to that team that put out some of those cards, my hat's off to those guys
Yeah,
for making
you're right.
some
You're very right.
real.
It's hard to talk about aesthetics because again, it's very subjective.
Yeah,
Some
of
people
course.
like Picasso, some people like Michelangelo, and
Sure.
both are art and both are very different experiences. And that's what it is. It's what you're into. Some people like a certain brand of set, and again, it's where's your place in the hobby. If you're a set collector, then you probably have a different view or opinion of how things went down versus if you're a PC guy or if you're just buying specific. A lot of people went after the higher end stuff, the one of ones and all that stuff.
Yeah,
And
I get it. I get your viewpoint's going to change based on how it is
yeah,
that you collect that product. I get it. It's like, but I'm just saying from an overall perspective, taking
overall, like,
all of it.
I started the conversation by saying it was great. So,
Yeah,
I'm still
yeah,
there. Your points are very salient that you're right. There's a lot of things that can sort of explain why they went down the way they did. But again, to be anti-Panini, our one friend that decided to shit on Panini at the outset and still to this day thinks it was horrible.
oh yeah. Well, first off, that person or any
Nonsense.
person like
Absolute
that is
nonsense.
full nonsense and absolutely knows nothing.
Yeah,
So,
it's,
I mean, it's okay to live, and then you want to talk about bubbles. It's okay to live in that bubble of like, well, I liked it when I was more in control over here, but
yeah.
because I don't spend a lot of money and I don't understand this particular type of product, I hate it. So that's fine. You can go ahead and be and just go stay in your corner then. Stay in your
People
basement.
people have the right
Do
to
what you need to do.
legitimately hate or not or detest or not like any
Absolutely, they
product
do.
that
Absolutely.
that,
So,
that they want. But if they're making that
but
decision because they
their
don't like,
viewpoint, that person's or people's viewpoints of not liking Panini for whatever reason is insignificant to the overall change that Panini brought to the hobby itself.
Very much so, and it has nothing to do with Panini or the product itself. It has to
Nothing
do
to do
with
with it. Yeah.
themselves and how they don't like other people in the hobby that are talking about it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And we've had multiple conversations about what we don't like about what's happened since Panini took the license, the distensions and divisions
Yeah.
and all these things
But
like
again,
that.
it's people.
And that's just people. That has nothing to do with the overall era of the product itself when it did. So
No.
Panini to me is a grand slam home run that really elevated wrestling cards into the future. I'm interested to see what Topps has to do and for how long they're going to do it for. Will we see it continue to keep riding that wave of big numbers, big maybe big names coming into the hobby, looking into expanding it. I'm interested in seeing all that stuff. Are sets going to be for guys like you? Are sets going to become more affordable for you to kind of collect those sets? Are we still going to have a nice balance of like high end stuff for the big spenders, and then guys who just want to collect those sets from those big sets? I mean, there's a lot to live up to
That's very
going
true.
forward.
Guys like me are going to adapt. We have to,
You have to adapt, and
you're in or
that's the
you're
other
out.
key.
So
That's the other key word is adapting.
yeah, yeah.
Either adapt or get left behind. That's how
I'm
it
not
is,
going to
man.
cry about it. I'm not going to cry about it because I couldn't buy a 3 count set. Nobody could. I'm not alone. I'm not going
Yeah,
to cry about the fact that I got priced out of Flawless. Same thing happened with Transcendent. You know, no big
yeah.
deal.
It's
Yeah,
just
and
it's
again, to your point about people's opinions, they don't like the product, they don't like this. How do I put this delicately? Some people just like to be assholes.
yeah,
They
they
just,
do.
and they come online, they say dumb shit,
Yep.
and fine, whatever.
That's okay, man,
Yeah,
because you know what? You're entitled to those opinions just like that.
yeah, you're
Just
very
like
much in the
I am,
minority.
just like you are, but there's a level of maturity that clearly has not been reached yet, but
Well, I
it's
think it's
okay, man.
important.
It's
Our,
okay.
our role is to share the stuff and to galvanize the community, to do stuff within the community as we've done. And it's got to be based on respect and on love, not on this guy, I don't like what he has to say or
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But you can't stop that. That's
No,
the internet, isn't it?
it's okay to have difference of opinion. It's okay to
Yeah.
debate. It's okay to have, not agree.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how you conduct yourself in that manner, I
Some
guess.
people conduct themselves poorly, and it's a
And they
shame
do.
because
It
they
is a
they have a
shame.
they have a decent voice, and if they just were a little more mindful of how they come off, they could probably go a lot further. But whatever.
Probably, whatever. But that's not what the point of this conversation is. But
No, it's about Panini. But
it,
again, it's to my point
it,
that it's perspective. So
it
whether
is
you like
perspective. Yeah.
Panini, take a step back and look at the person that's doing the commenting, and then you'll probably be able to correlate. You know what I'm saying?
Those people, nobody cares about what they say. They really don't. You talk about they're a minority within the minority within the minority.
Yeah.
That's how small they are. Um, uh, so the hobby itself and where Panini's gone, just like that, is just I agree with you on the good, the bad, the ugly stuff that you pointed out, just like that, 100%. I just think as a whole, the era of Panini has changed the game forever for this hobby.
I
Now,
suggested
whether
it
that
wasn't.
becomes a bubble or not, I mean that's yet to be seen.
Yeah.
But man, we really got put on the map, man. We asked for it, we got it.
And here we are.
I'm happy
To,
for it,
to,
man.
to
I'm
suggest
happy.
to suggest that the Panini era was a bust is ludicrous.
Mm.
It's just a wrong statement to make.
Yeah, anybody who says that is just flat out
Yeah.
idiotic. They're idiotic. They're wrong
Yeah.
on
So
so many
thanks,
levels.
thanks to Panini for for the
Thanks for the 3 years, company, and we'll looking forward to Tops.
yeah, and that's it. And you never know how this hobby goes. Not likely, but maybe they'll be back one day. So who knows?
You never know, man. It's just like wrestling, man. You never say never.
Exactly.
It's just, you just never say never. I've enjoyed the ride despite some of the bumpy roads we've had to take along this journey.
Yeah, me too.
It's been a hell of a fun 3 years with Panini coming in there. I don't know, man. I'm a Tops guy too, so I love to see what Tops is going to be doing. I've been privy to a few of the upcoming releases that are coming out and the names of the different kinds of releases coming out by Tops. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely.
There's going to be some good stuff
And
coming
we'll be
out by
here for,
Tops.
we you might not see us every day, but we'll be here.
Oh yeah, I mean, just because, trust me, we're going to be talking about all of it.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's Tops, Panini, Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
I don't care who it is. You name a company, I don't care who it is. If there's something exciting to talk about, we're going to be talking about it as long as it involves wrestling cards.
Exactly. Very
So,
good, Tony. Anything else?
yeah. No, but I'm interested in hearing from other people too. Like, I've been
Absolutely.
asking more and more on these videos and stuff. I want to hear your guys' I want to read your comments. be part of the conversation here. What did you guys think about Panini? Good, bad, ugly? Is it the greatest era ever in wrestling cards for you? Has it elevated the market, the hobby itself to new levels? Did we take a step back because it was overproduced stuff? I want to hear from everybody.
Undertaker autographs are cheaper now than they were before the Panini era.
And that's
is
not
that a good or bad thing?
That's not a bad thing. I think if I was somebody who had stock in a company that only had so many shares available, and that company decided to sell more freaking shares to make my stock less valuable, I'd probably have a bitter opinion about it. But as a collector and an observer of the hobby as a whole, I like it all. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
It puts more of those things I never thought I could have in my hands.
Exactly. Well, from the Dexter point of view, look at all the stuff that you're.
Well, Jesus Christ, Dexter should be a quarter. I mean,
but
it's I'm having fun with it. It doesn't matter anyway. So that. No disrespect to Dexter Loomis. I love you, Dexter. So I got nothing else, man. What about you?
That's it. Yeah, nice to see you. Thanks everybody. Hope everyone's enjoying themselves, and WrestleMania is coming up before too long, and we'll be back probably in a couple months' time with the first quarter wrap up.
If not sooner, you never know. Hot topics are hot topics, man.
You think of something and let's bang one off. So,
hey, I got a laundry list for you, dude. I sent you the list.
Well, these are easy to do, so they're fun, and we're making the time. So, hopefully we'll see you a little more this year.
Cool. All right, man.
All right,
with that, man, I say, we're out.